All right, good morning, folks. Let's give a minute and see who is out there. So, hopefully, every day you get faster and faster notifications that I am online and ready to go. Just for your own acknowledgement, it is 5 a.m. here on the West Coast, or in West Coast time spot. So I don't know where it is around the world, but as soon as we gather enough of an audience, we will be talking diet and food today. I got a few things I want to get through. And then, of course, as always, I'll take your questions and things like that. So, looking forward to a wonderful day today. Spring is here, so going to indulge you guys for an hour or so and then get out in the nature where I live and go for a nice long walk. So, I do have a couple things, and then I will yield the floor, yield the mic, yield the digital environment to all you folks. I'm just waiting till we build enough of an audience that I can start talking so people don't miss anything in the interim. So let me know you're out there. I see we got 7 or 8 or 9 people, so let me know who you are and how you're doing. Okay, someone just shared my video. Good. I always like that when people are sharing the video. Hopefully it's for a good reason. I'm not sure about the site that just shared it, but that's good. We like having people on board, and I certainly don't mind being challenged. So, gathering an audience here, folks, probably from all over the world and different time zones. Some of you are up, some of you are just getting up. That's why it's called Sunday Breakfast with the Coach. So, yeah, if you want to just sort of show me where you're all signing in from and give me a wave, I'd be happy to mention you for the next minute or so, and then we will get going. So, yeah, I'm just taking care of some business here, and whoops, I just lost my pictures. Still online. Yeah, lost my picture there for a minute, folks. So, yes, good morning, San Diego. Oh, nice to have San Diego and Ohio and Dubai. Awesome. United Kingdom. Some familiar faces. Hey, Linda, I'm actually going to use your letter this morning, if that's all right with you. I'm going to talk about, I changed it around a little bit, so hopefully that's okay. And we got Texas on board, and another San Diego, and Alliston, Ontario. So we're building a list. Some people it's early, and other people it's a little later. So this morning, yeah, we're almost at enough people to get going here. So, oh, Slovenia, nice. Nice to have people from Slovenia and the UK and Michigan, and everyone's coming on board. So, appreciate the worldwide attention that you guys are giving me. Smarter Sculpted Physique is really launching. That's my podcast. We've had some killer guests on recently, and by the time Mike gets that stuff edited and out to you guys, if you're not on my Smarter Sculpted Physique, you might want to be signing up for that over on iTunes or wherever you get your online podcasts and things like that. So good stuff. So today I thought we would talk about all things diet and diet related, and I'm going to title this Diet, Let's Get Real About Getting Real. There's way too much nonsense out there, and the nonsense comes from two particular places, you believe it or not, that you would think are actually on your side. The nonsense in the world of nutrition and diet come from the diet industry, the Jenny Craigs and the Nutrisystems of the world, and it also comes from the fitness industry, the keto nonsense and low carb nonsense, and these are things where these industries try to play doctor beyond the people who have been studying nutrition for 40, 50, 60 years. There are people who have written books and devoted a lifetime of a career to doing nothing but studying nutrition. Those are the people who I pay attention to. People with no vested interest in being right, only in trying to ascertain the truth. So I think this is important because a lot of people miss that in this industry that's enmeshed in gimmicks and promises and catering to people's wish bias and egos and things like that. And you're going to need to start waking up and getting real about getting real. So that's what we're going to do. I like it when listeners send me questions or quotes or comments. I don't always use them, but when I can and it's relevant, I certainly like to. So Linda, I won't mention the last name just in case, because I didn't check it with you, but I see you're with us again. Linda sent me a quote from Joe Rigney's The Things of Earth. Now, I removed, Linda, the religious overtones to make a more relevant point, because as much as I don't mind the religious overtones, sometimes when you have religious overtones in something you're trying to say, that's all people hear, and they react to it rather than consider the message. So I'm just trying to appeal to as many people as I can. So hopefully that's all right with you. So I have reworded and tweaked this very, very good quote that Linda sent me, and I appreciate you sending it to me, Linda, and feel free to comment afterward. And I'm going to read you the quote, folks, and then I'm going to tell you why it's important, okay? So the quote goes, "When every day becomes a feast, no day is then truly one. We need to recover the significance of feasting together communally, not simply indulging, but explicitly celebrating together on special occasions the bounty and abundance we all live in. Our normal daily consumption, mentally, emotionally, nutritionally, and spiritually, our normal daily consumption should be characterized by enough restraint, self-restraint, and self-discipline that feasting is something we can rise to on special occasions. Rise to mentally, rise to emotionally, rise to spiritually, rise to nutritionally. On special occasions rather than feasting being the baseline of everyday existence. All right, daily restraint keeps our stomachs primed for maximum health and makes possible a kind of special indulgence on feast days." And that's me rewording a quote from Joe Rigney, The Things of Earth. And this is relevant because too many people do not understand the benefits of self-restraint and self-discipline in actually actualizing a diet. They make it so much about the external goal to lose weight and to look better. They forget the elements of what nurturance can do for you emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and that a little self-discipline and self-restraint goes a long way to good emotional, mental, and spiritual health. And that has a lot to do with having a little self-discipline because of the world of abundance that we live in that our ancestors did not. Our ancestors were not teased and tormented by what we call hyper-palatable foods. There was no such thing as junk food for our ancestors. There was no such thing as convenience for our ancestors. And to be tormented and teased by these things in your own mind is an element of choice. So what you see here in this quote by Joe Rigney that I've tweaked here is that it's actually good for the soul to exercise self-restraint and then make food a part of that exercise in self-discipline and treating your body well. But also the flip side of that coin, knowing when it's okay to celebrate indulgence. Okay, that's why human species evolved in every single culture to make food part of every single traditional celebration. So to think you're going to live in denial of that is to try to deny your own hard wiring in your own brain. So this is why we like something like my cycle diet, because the cycle diet celebrates both the self-restraint, self-discipline, but at the same time celebrates the element of feasting, right? Which is very, very important. You can't deny and deprive your brain forever when it comes to food because you are hardwired like every mammal to seek food and enjoy it, okay? Now the other element of that is you can't just do that willy-nilly if you have some kind of goal. People join with me, this week someone joined with me, like very, very overweight, a lot of weight to lose, willing to do anything, and then when I send them their diet, it's, well, what about my meals out with my friends? And what about, going out for some drinks on the weekend? And what about, this is where the self-restraint and honoring your body and honoring a commitment to yourself comes in. This is a mental thing and a spiritual thing. Some people see sacrifice as self-deprivation, and sacrifice is not self-deprivation. Sacrifice is a choice. You take someone like Tom Brady, who at the age of 39 is on a really, really strict diet where he won't eat strawberries and he won't eat nightshade vegetables, and he considers red, green, and yellow peppers a treat, and he makes homemade avocado ice cream. He doesn't see any of that as deprivation. He sees it as a choice he makes to be a better athlete every year. So this is what we mean when we talk about self-restraint and self-discipline and the kind of freedom it gives you. There's freedom in responsibility, and only in responsibility. So you can't have it both ways. So before you get to your questions, just let me rant on a little bit, folks, because these things are very, very important. So I'm glad people are coming. We've got Pakistan on board now, and Colorado, and Slovakia. So I'm really, really happy with that. Linda, I hope you're okay with the way I changed that quote. Like I said, I just wanted to remove the religious overtones because some people can't separate the two, and that would have been unfortunate. So as much as I had no problem with that. Now next, what I have here is finally, let's get at the heart of the matter. Every week I come on here to talk about diet. Someone asks me about keto, someone asks me about low carbs, someone tells me they're carb resistant, which is a made up word. All of these things that create nonsense. And then we have the whole, thanks Linda, appreciate that. And I was a little, didn't get to ask you first. But so I have a study, and enough of the paleo nonsense. Paleo is based on a lot of lies created that, in Paleolithic man ate a certain way, and that's why they were lean. They weren't lean, they were skinny, they were starving, all right? And they lived a life where they hunted and they ate what was available to them. There's no magic nutritional guidance in Paleolithic man any more than there is in the species that didn't survive that era. So let's get serious about that. So what I want to do now, Alan Henry is on the cycle diet. He just had pizza and pancakes for breakfast. Love the cycle diet. So for all of you out there who are maybe new to the program, that's thecycle.diet. The cycle, all one word, .diet, if you want to know what I'm talking about, how to use refeeds, overfeeds, and indulgent foods in a way that enhances metabolism and doesn't negatively impact you cosmetically. So, great. Oh, now people are asking some questions. Let me get through this next one, folks, and let me just remind you here, boy, our audience is building. I appreciate you all being here. I'm going to read from a latest study that addresses all this. So I appreciate that comment, Yvette. Thank you. Now, I'm going to read you from a study. You're going to have to come back to my fan page here on Facebook, and I will put in the comment section when I'm done, I'll put the link to the study so you can see the pictures and read the study yourself, so you can give it full weight in your own head, okay? So I am going to read you a study so that you can get a notion of what real, true nutritional science is. You cannot just study nutrition science in little microscopic windows. You have to consider the bigger picture. I always say you see more through a telescope than you do through a microscope. And there's too much narrow focus in the nutrition industry in order to sell supplements and bogus diets and things like that. We need to look at nutrition in a wider scope, and that includes historical, cultural ways that people ate and survived as a species, okay? For number one, like every other mammal on Earth, we are hardwired to notice food when it is in our presence. You cannot escape that. So to try to deny that because you're on a diet is foolhardy. All right, that's just putting you in a battle state with your own mind. That makes no sense. So now I want to read you from this study. It was actually presented in Lancet, the journal Lancet. But when I post the link, I will use the bbc.com news/health link. So you're going to have to come back to read the whole study yourself, all right? And I will put this in the comment section after this live session, Breakfast with the Coach posts on Facebook, okay? So basically, researchers went out and they found the healthiest hearts in the world. And the healthiest hearts in the world have been found in the Chimene people in the forests of Bolivia. Barely any Chimene had signs of clogged up arteries, even well into old age. A study in the Lancet showed, so the original studies in the journal Lancet. the commentary now is, it's an incredible population with radically different diets and ways of living, said the researchers. They admit the rest of the world cannot revert to hunter-gathering, early farming existence, but the researchers did say there's lessons in this for all of us, which is why I'm reading this to you. The Chimene, all right, there's around 16,000 Chimene in this tribe who hunt, fish, and farm on the Manique River in the Amazon rainforest in the Bolivian lowlands. Their way of life has similarities to human civilization thousands of years ago. That is key. That's why I'm reading it to you. This is of historical significance in terms of how humans survived in a healthy way, unlike the lies that paleo tries to tell you about, all right? So, it took a team of scientists and doctors, multiple flights, and a canoe journey just to get to this place, all right? That's how isolated the Chimene tribe is. Now, how does your diet compare with the Chimene? 17% of the Chimene diet is wild game, including wild pig, tapir, and capybara, which is the world's largest rodent. 7% is freshwater fish, including piranha and catfish. Here we go. Listen to this. Most of the rest of their diet comes from family farms growing rice, maize, all right, which is corn, manioc root, which is like sweet potato, and plantains, similar to bananas but starchier. So listen to that point. Most of the rest comes from family farms growing rice, corn, sweet potato, and plantains. Starch carbs, starch carbs, starch carbs. All right, let me say that again. And all of it is topped with some foraged fruits and nuts. Michael Gervin, a professor of anthropology at the University of California, Santa Barbara, told the BBC, 72%, all right, 72% of their calories come from carbohydrates, compared with 52% of the diet in North America. 72% of their calories come from carbohydrates, compared with 52% in the U.S. 14% of their calories come from fat, compared with 34% in North America. The Chimene also consume much less saturated fat, all right? Much less saturated fat. So we're back to this low-fat, medium to high carbohydrate, including starch, okay? Both Americans and Chimene have 14% calories from protein, but the Chimene tribe eat a lot more lean meat, all right? How fit are the Chimene tribe? They're far more physically active, with the men averaging 17,000 steps per day and the women averaging 16,000 steps per day. Even the over 60 group in the Chimene tribe have a step count over 15,000. It makes North American people struggle to get near 10,000 steps seem deeply insignificant. They achieve a remarkable dose of exercise, says Dr. Gregory Thomas, one of the researchers from Long Beach Memorial Medical Center in California. Just how magnificent are the hearts of the Chimene tribe? And I'm reading from the article here. The scientists looked up for coronary artery calcium, or CAC, which is a sign of clogged up blood vessels and risks for heart attack, so general cardiac health. The scientists scanned 705 people's hearts in a CT scanner after teaming up with a research group scanning mummified bodies as well. At the age of 45, almost no Chimene has any significant coronary artery calcium, CAC, in their arteries, while 25% of the Americans do. By the time they reach age 75, 2/3 of Chimene tribe are CAC free, compared to the overwhelming majority of Americans, over 80%, having signs of CAC in their arteries. The research has been studying this group for a long time, so it's not simply a case of the unhealthy members of the tribe dying young and skewing the results. Michael Gervin, a professor of anthropology at the University of California, Santa Barbara, told the BBC it is much lower in every population where the data exists. The second closest were Japanese women, but it's still a different ballpark altogether. Is it only diet and exercise? What can I learn? Asked the article. Professor Gervin said, I would say we need a more holistic approach to physical exercise, more so than just at the weekend or weekend warrior type. Bicycle to work, take the stairs, write your story on a treadmill, things like that. Dr. Thomas said it could be to maintain health we need to be exercising a lot more than we actually do. So there goes your Bowflex ads and things like that. 3 times a week for 20 minutes is all you need, and you'll have this model's body that you see on the infomercial. They continue. The modern world is keeping us alive, but urbanization and the specialization of the labor force can be new risk factors for an unhealthy heart. These Chimene tribes also live in small communities. Life is very social and they maintain a positive outlook. Again, the communal elements of eating together and feasting together, like I mentioned in the first quote from the other book. What do the experts make of all of this? So here we go. Dr. Gavin Sandercock, leader in clinical physiology of cardiology at the University of Essex, said, "This is an excellent study with unique findings." Now here we go. Pay attention. Listen up. The Chimene tribe gets 72% of their energy from carbohydrates. 72% of their heart-healthy diet comes from carbohydrates. All right? The fact is, they have the best indicators of cardiovascular health ever reported. And this is the exact opposite to many recent suggestions that carbohydrates are unhealthy. Can I please read that again? Because I know next week I'm going to get the same question. The fact is, the Chimene tribe have the best indicators of cardiovascular health ever reported, which is the exact opposite to many recent suggestions by the diet and fitness industry that carbohydrates are unhealthy. They get 72% of their daily energy intake from carbohydrates, including starch. Okay? Professor Naveed Sattar from the University of Glasgow said, "This is a beautiful real-life study which reaffirms all we understand about preventing heart disease. Simply put, a healthy diet," here we go, "very low in saturated fat and full of unprocessed products, and not smoking and being active lifelong is associated with the lower risk of having furring up healthy blood vessels." So I also relate this, folks, to T. Colin Campbell's book called Whole, Rethinking the Science of Nutrition. T. Colin Campbell, for those of you who may not know, is the author of the China Study, and this book, Whole, Rethinking the Science of Nutrition. He's only been a PhD in nutrition and only been studying and writing nutritional journals for 50 years. So what's he going to know compared to some fitness industry person that wants to complicate your diet with keto nonsense and eat meat because of paleo lies. 50 years devoted to research and nutrition. You need to read that book. So here's the lesson. An active lifestyle and healthy whole foods, including carbs, leads to health and wellness. Including carbs. All right? 72% of their energy intake comes from carbohydrates, including mostly based on starches that I read to you. Rice, corn, sweet potato, and plantain. All right? 72%. As long as they are active, what did the researchers find? The healthiest hearts on the planet. Okay? So, historically, if we look, and I'm a study of nutrition historically and how cultures survived, you can find that in my book, Understanding Metabolism. We know that cultures survived and thrived because of starch carbs, all right? And that was regional things throughout the world. In South America, it was maize/corn. In Europe, in Western Europe, Ireland especially, in those areas, it was potatoes. All right, and in the Orient, in Asia, it was rice. People ate these things almost with every meal in order to survive. Okay, so that is a recent study. I am going to post the link in my comment section once the Facebook Live is over, and it posts. Then I will give you the link if you want to read it yourself. This is the reality of the nutrition and metabolic world. If you're trying to cut out starch carbs, and someone told you some fancy story or read you some fancy research, which was very myopic in nature, and you think it appeals to your wish bias that you're going to lose weight doing that way, you're going to diet your way to fatness, and you're going to diet your way to ill health. I mean, I don't know how many other ways I can say it. I've written it in almost every book I've written in. Every 5 years, the circle of the diet fitness industry, vogue, fashionable trend, somehow bastardizes and demonizes carbohydrates. Trust me, 90% of you are not gluten intolerant and you're not carb resistant and the rest of it. I mean, now I get people writing me saying they're fruit resistant. There's really no such thing. Okay, so we need to understand these things in general and stop being afraid of real, unprocessed, healthy whole foods, all right, and just being active. Stop counting your steps. Get out there and actually take more steps, all right? As soon as I'm done this Facebook Live, I'm going for my walk. It's springtime here, so I'm going to get out there in nature and do my walk. So, oops. Okay, so now we're ready for your questions, folks, I think. Yes, we should have T-shirts that say, I love carbs, or I was thinking of in terms of the Abel Body Camp, we eat carbs. Getting a shirt like that, we eat carbs and we feel great. And it's funny, I was recently, just a few ladies on my podcast. Well, first, you all, if you're tuned into this channel, you saw the lovely Crystal last week when we went Facebook Live doing some exercises, and she said how she loved carbs, and she eats her oatmeal sometimes twice a day, and eats rice and eats sweet potatoes. And you see, she has about the most, the best kind of physique a woman would aim for, all right, in terms of being an ideal shape and stuff. Not too muscular, looks great, flat stomach, just very fit. She eats carbs. And then we just recently, this week, interviewed my former client, Desiree Walker, who was on American Ninja Warrior and became famous for that. She was on there twice. And we talked about how when I dieted her to win her pro card, we ate carbs, starch carbs, all the way through, and never starved her at all. So that's the thing, right? The keto diet, saying that keto diet helps with mental acuity, is a misinterpretation of actual brain science, Tracy. We know about neuropeptide Y levels and how it takes a certain amount of sugar past the blood barrier in the brain in order for the brain to work actively and work right. Most people who go keto and low carbs, over time, they will tell you that they experience a lot of confusion and ADHD and things like that. So, again, I don't pay many attentions to this keto nonsense. Unless someone has a medical reason to be on keto, it's absolutely ridiculous to be even doing it, because keto is an unnatural state for the body. We want to be as in a natural state as we can. That's where health lies, not in doing something that's unnatural, but in keeping up with what's natural and what you were born to be. Okay, so Mike, you enjoyed the podcast with Dan John. Great. Erica, appreciate the comment. Did I miss some questions here? The research into arsenic and rice-based diets, I don't know. I don't fear things like that. I don't respond to things that try to induce fear in me when it comes to nutrition, so I don't look at things that way. Like I say, I eat rice, I eat potatoes, those kind of things. I eat oatmeal, so, I tend to focus on the holistic element of that, so, very important. Forks Over Knives. If you got Netflix, maybe you watch Forks Over Knives, but we really got to get away from this. We know, in my nutrition book that I've shown you several times, we know that the people who eat the most meat tend to suffer the most diseases of affluence, heart disease, high blood pressure, things like that. This is no big secret, folks. So, we need to stop getting our nutritional research and our nutritional knowledge from inside the fitness industry, which tries to play doctor way too much, and inside the diet industry, which is trying to sell you stuff, all right? It doesn't need to be this complicated. Go over and re-listen to the study I just read. This isn't rocket science. These are tribal people with no education at all who are having great health and enjoying great health and robust health because they live closer to nature. All right? It's not because they don't eat carbs or they do eat this or there's not a special food, right? So very, very important there. And you need to start embracing that element. Now another question. Yeah, when can a client get away with a cheat day? Well, first you should start with cheat meals, depending on where you're at, especially if you don't have anyone monitoring you. Don't forget the pictures that I'm posting of my clients before and afters, because they're my coaching clients. I monitor all that stuff for them, so I don't let their brains try to convince them oh, I'm hungry, so it's time for a cheat day. I don't let their egos lie to them that way. We look for the metabolic and nutritional signs, and that's all outlined in the Cycle Diet course that you can get online, the cycle.diet, right? You get the book or the course or both if you sign up for that. So, and as Jennifer's saying, being in a state of tolerable hunger helps with mental acuity, absolutely, and that's proven in the research. The people who tend to eat in a relative calorie deficit tend to be a lot sharper mentally, and that's in my research as well. This is why the Cycle Diet works so well. But it also speaks to Linda's letter that she sent me, Linda's quote that she sent me of knowing when to feast and knowing when to exercise restraint and self-discipline. This has to be a part of a healthy mindset in terms of spiritual wellness. There's way too many people out there, folks, and write this down, doing things they think is in the spirit of fitness with paying no attention to the fitness of spirit. All right, these things need to go together, all right? If you want to be a better person, experience personal growth, the things you do, then it has to be beyond dieting to lose weight, or has to be beyond dieting to look better. Believe me, I did all that in my career. So, I was in the magazines and blah, 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 and I worked out to look better. I work out now to feel better. Looking good at my age is just sort of a, secondary effect, a secondary benefit of that. So, yeah. Jeremy, I know you're a client, but I've got to speak to the wider audience too. I can't, narrow it down sometimes when it's questions like when you're ready for a cheat day. I'll know by my client's biofeedback. I just tend to not focus on it because I don't want the focus of a diet to be when can I eat cookies and cake. That's not a good mindset to have. That's what's wrong with if it fits your macros and the rest of it. Focus on the right things, not the wrong things. We need to focus on the healthy whole foods that are the base and the foundation of a good diet. And then we can worry about the feasting in terms of optimizing metabolism. So, Suzanne, what would be classed as a good deficit? Well, that requires assessment. But basically, you should be fairly hungry throughout the day, as most mammals in the wild are. All right, but you're sharp. You can concentrate. You got energy to get through the day. Sure, your ego would want a little something, but your body doesn't need a little something, and you have to learn the separation of the two. So as long as your workouts are productive and you're not feeling weaker and, going to the gym and stuff, and you're productive and in your day, you can fully concentrate on what you're doing, your mind doesn't wander, especially doesn't wander to food, then you're probably in a good calorie deficit. So I see my client Aaron Chagall just came on, and his comment is 10 years on the Cycle Diet. Right now watching Coach and eating waffles, eggs, and bacon and Cinnabons. That's how we do it with the Cycle Diet. That's how we rock it. I had a whole package of chocolate chip banana muffins for breakfast, so but I'm already hungry, so I'll probably rock something else when I get done this. So hopefully, yeah, I'm glad you wrote in, Jeremy, because sometimes I'm not sure if I'm answering people's questions. Sometimes I can answer the question specifically to the person, and then other times I know if I do that, I might be misleading other people who hear something else because they're not clients. So very, very important. Stephen says he just finished reading Understanding Metabolisms, and he's my book, Understanding Metabolism, and now he's on to practicing my capital S directive, which is in Understanding Metabolism. And the advice as I get started, don't be in a hurry. Have too many people, they look at diet books and they read things and they write it down and they get all religious about it, right? They get all black and white about it. All right? Progress, not perfection, folks. Progress, not perfection. All right? The idea, have fun with it. All right? Get into it and have fun with it. Oh, this was challenging. Oh, maybe, this week I just didn't quite eat enough, and maybe next week I'll eat more and see how that goes. But it should be fun. All right? No one's going to do anything for long if it's stress-inducing. All right? So some people go into this stuff with the wrong mindset to begin with. They think it's all about perfection and being perfect, and I stood on the scale and I lost 2 pounds this week, so all is right with the world, right? And then next week they step on the scale and nothing happened. Oh, woe is me. And then the week after, they step on the scale and the scale went up 2 pounds. My life sucks. All right, they're going into it with the wrong attitude, right? It should be engaging, self-engaging, self-connecting. Make it fun. That's why the cycle diet is so good to practice, because you're practicing self-restraint and self-discipline through the week with well-timed anticipation for indulgent foods, of enjoying them. I'm going out later with Andy to enjoy a meal, and I'm looking forward to that because it's, you know, it's a celebration, like I read earlier, and from that quote that Linda sent me. I thank her again because that was beautifully written. What is the best biofeedback you look for when determining when the body is ready for a refeed? Well, there is no... what is the biofeedback? Sorry. The comments are popping in so fast sometimes I misread without my glasses. What's the biofeedback I look for when determining when the body is ready for a refeed? Hunger levels, concentration levels in and outside the gym, energy levels in and outside the gym, sleep patterns, things like that. Anything that's disrupted from a normal productive pattern I look for, and then there will be certain things that are unique to the individual themselves, all right? And then that gets tricky if you have, for instance, I coach a lot of people with past eating disorders and stuff, and that gets pretty tricky. Or I have people who are now lean, but they used to be very, very overweight. So their genetic proclivity is to put on fat very easy. And we have to make sure that their metabolic programming is now completely away from their metabolism being a fat storing machine to now being a fat burning machine. So sometimes there's individual things you have to look at with one client. You have to pay more attention to certain variables with one client that you wouldn't have to do with another one. So that's very important as well. That was a good question, Tawny. Hope you're doing well. All right, I'm glad people are enjoying this. So I'm hopefully you will go back and read the study. I see another comment. People don't take nutrition decisions based on logic. They need someone to help them build the skills to help change those habits. Coaching is part of the process to help make a better choice. Let me click on that, Maria. Of course you'll say that because you're a coaching client. I don't see anymore. Yeah, a lot of the times, people don't make good nutritional decisions, and they don't know where the line in the sand is. There's a lot of people who, like I said earlier, they don't know the difference between positive self-sacrifice that makes you stronger and self-discipline that builds character versus deprivation. So, that's why you have a coach to help get your mind in the right state. Because as I always say, quality of mindset determines quality of behavior, right? So the better you're thinking, the better you're acting. And most people don't understand that. They got faulty wiring in their head. They got a head full of stinking thinking, and they think that that's somehow going to translate into good behavior. And then they wonder why they don't last on a diet or they don't last on a physique transformation program. Most of my clients will tell you I deal as much with their mindset as I do with their diet strategy and training regimen, right? I oftentimes have to reorient people toward real thinking, all right? So that's very, very important as well. So that was an important point, Maria. We'll just see here. Any other comments coming in? I'm glad you guys are reacting to what I'm saying. And again, apparently Facebook algorithms like emoticons, like thumbs and hearts and things like that. So if you're benefiting from any of this, by all means, put it in there. So a couple other things on the more metaphysical side, since there's no questions coming in right now. I want you to consider two things. And the constitution of any Western civilized society is such that thank you for that. I appreciate all the thumbs and hearts coming across. All right, some of the foundations of living in the free world is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I want you to think about these three things. Early morning marble mouth. All right, in terms of how you live your life. All right. We have life in the Western world, the most abundant life history has ever known. So that's taken, that's given, all right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have liberty. If there's any liberty you don't have, then you have to assume that that's an element of your own choice, all right? So you might think you're stuck in a certain predicament. That's an element of choice. That's stinking thinking to tell yourself you're stuck. Now that just leaves the pursuit of happiness. So with a show of thumbs and whatnot, in terms of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, how many of you out there assume that you are able to lead a life in the pursuit of happiness? Just throw some stuff across the screen and I can see. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How many of you out there are free to live in the pursuit of happiness? Okay, so I'm just looking at the screen. Okay, so a lot of you make that assumption, but thank you. Okay, good. All right, so a lot of you agree with that statement. See, I don't agree with that statement. That statement is misleading because I hear people all the time tell me about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that they live in the pursuit of happiness. But higher awareness isn't about living in the pursuit of happiness. Higher awareness is about living in the creation of happiness. You make your own circumstances, all right? And if you can't change your circumstances, you can change the way you perceive and react to them, all right? So in this world of liberty and abundance, all right, and a guaranteed life, all right, your responsibility isn't the pursuit of happiness. That should be a given. Your responsibility is the creation of happiness in your own life. And the more happiness you create in and of and for yourself, the more that will be contagious to the rest of the world. And that's a very, very important thing to consider. Your response is not a pursuit of happiness. That's a fundamental guarantee. Your response and your responsibility, all right, ability to respond, is the creation of happiness, and you need to think about that. Happiness and purpose, these things aren't possessions, okay? They're modes of action. They're the way you take on the world, all right? The happiness and purpose are the two wheels in front and two wheels in the back. That is the vehicle of your life's journey, all right? Your fundamental practice is to create happiness in and for yourself. Nobody else does that for you, all right? There's people that can be catalysts of that in your life, like a good coach or things like that, and you have to consider that. So stop telling yourself that you live in the pursuit of happiness, because the pursuit of something means you've never attained it. And then happiness isn't a possession you have, like an iPhone. It's something you live. It's a mode of action. It's an attitude. All right? So enough of attitude for action. Have the right attitude in action. And definitely don't have an attitude of inaction, because you're never going to get anywhere. You can't think your way to well-being. At some point, you're going to have to do the dance. All right? And you don't have to dance well. You just have to dance. All right? So you got to get on that. All right? Because a lot of people think a diet and weight loss is going to be the magic solution to feeling good about themselves and being happy. Wrong. All right? Weight loss doesn't make you feel good about yourself. Feeling good about yourself leads to weight loss. All right? And I've said that in most of my books. So, Stephen, you're asking how much weight I lifted in one of my posts with dumbbells. I think I did 5 sets of 5 with 100-pound dumbbells. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's the stress on the muscle that I'm after. So sometimes it'll be 100-pound dumbbells. Sometimes it might be 90s. It really doesn't, with arthritis in my shoulder at my age and stuff like that, I take what my body gives me, and I appreciate what my body gives me on any given day. I don't get frustrated with it. I'm like, got in another workout at my age. That's a pretty good thing, because we interviewed a man I have a lot of respect for our podcast the other day, JC Santana, and he's got hips replaced and knees replaced, and from lifelong when he was young of being a combat athlete. When we get to over 50, folks, there's consequences to the life we lived in our youth. There's no way around that. I mean, everyone thinks that there's some kind of magic youth serum until they actually get to be our age. And trainers out there, you need to realize that. You need to stop training your over 50 clients as if they're 35. If you're running boot camp classes and stuff, shame on you. If you're running your 50-plus-year-olds with the same drills you're running your 35-year-olds. Wrong, wrong, wrong. So that's a good question there. What tactics do I use to get clients to stop obsessing about their diets? Good question, Ian. All kinds. I have a whole, I wrote a book about it. I have a whole workbook on it in my Phantom Menace books. A lot of that depends on the client and what their background was. Is their background in binge eating? Is their background in competing, which is body image obsession? Is their background in anorexia? Is their background in emotional emptiness, growing up with either a parent who had an addiction or emotionally absent main parent. Things like that. So that will affect, what kind of approach you're going to take to get clients to stop obsessing about their diets and their weight. However, I will say, Ian, the number one thing I do when a client comes to me and through email and says, I love everything you say about diet, and I have this eating issue and food issue, and I'm afraid of food, or I'm afraid of social events, or, blah, blah, blah. I'm tired of obsessing about food. I'm exhausted. The first thing I tell them is accept that this is going to be a long-term approach, because rewiring old wiring is hard to do. All right, it's not easy. I don't just say, oh, think this and it all goes away. But that's the same quick fix solution that everyone's looking for, whether it's on the outside with weight loss or on the inside with dealing with something more substantial like an eating disorder or food issues. They want the tell me now, tell me how to do it now. Well, that's great. There's a lot of websites and people that will do that, and I'm not one of them. So as long as they want to sign up for a long-term relationship, because coaching is a relationship, not a dictatorship. And if they want to sign up for that kind of relationship and understand it'll be long-term, then we can do something with that. And that's why a lot of my clients make the transformation. And a lot of them will report that while their physical transformation wasn't what they expected, they now lead a normal, healthy, happy life, and they don't obsess about their body image anymore, and they don't obsess about food, and they feel freed from life inside the thin cage for the first time in their life. For me, that's victory. Whether that comes with 20-pound weight loss or an ideal physique or not is separate from the issue. If we achieve an ideal physique, but you're still haunted by food and weighing yourself 10 times a day, then I've failed. I haven't succeeded, and I deliberately will not post before and after pictures of clients who I think are just hiding a more severe disorder, because you do end up with people like that. So yeah, they look great, and the fact that everyone tells them they look great just reinforces their issue that behind the scenes no one can live with them because they're so obsessed, weighing themselves all the time and weighing their food all the time and being afraid of going out, and no partner wants to live in that world, trust me. So very important, sir. Question. Hope you are doing good. I'm always doing good. If I'm not doing good, then I hope good is doing me. I'm from Pakistan, bulking up right now, trying to gain lean mass. My weight is stuck. I'm consuming 3,000 to 35, train 5 days a week. Well, see, here's the thing that you're writing. What you're writing is all about numbers. You need to get away from all that. These numbers aren't telling you a whole lot of a story, and it takes a long time to develop a good physique. You're not going to, you see Andy every week on my Facebook Live or the Coach and Andy show on YouTube. He didn't just sprout muscles. It was 10 years in the making, all right? He's been with me for 13 years. If you keep thinking this is about, okay, train this many days a week, I eat this many calories, this is my weight, I want to weigh this by the end of June. No, you got to start listening to your body and not dictating to your body. There's a difference. You don't talk at your body, you talk to and with your body, and you listen when your body responds. That is the art of coaching. So, and just listing that stuff without seeing your physique or doing an assessment and then asking, what do I suggest you do? That's the problem with the internet. People go on these sites and they ask these completely unqualified people, here's my list of stuff, what should I do? And these wannabe experts who want to play God to everybody, oh, well, you just do this, this, and this. Well, no, they can't answer that question. They haven't done an assessment of you. They don't see how you work out, what your program looks like, what your diet looks like. They just see a bunch of numbers. And anyone who pretends to answer that question is a fake expert. He's a false prophet. And you got to realize that kind of stuff, all right? This is where truth lives, all right? Well, we try to present the truth. That's why this one's called Diet, Getting Real About Getting Real, all right? So that's very, very important. The name of my podcast, Erica, is Smarter Sculpted Physique. So you have a lot to catch up on. So iTunes or whatever, Smarter Sculpted Physique. It might even have a .com. I'm not sure how that works. And we just started interviewing some pretty heavy hitters on the podcast. So we've branched out now. Myself and Mike, we've branched out, and we just had Dan John on, and we just had JC Santana on, and Desiree Walker, and we got some pretty hard hitters in the fitness industry and beyond the fitness industry actually coming up in future episodes. So that's pretty good. what's my thought on the macro method to healthy eating? Well, I don't know what the macro method is. Are you talking about if it fits your macros and things like that? But again, I look out for gimmicky titles like that. There's no reason you have to break down things into macros. That study I just read where the Chimene tribe, 72% of their calories come from carbohydrates. This is a tribe living in the jungle with no electricity and things like that. They're not sitting down there with a calculator. They don't have the healthiest hearts in the world because someone worked out their macros for them. They hunt, gather, fish, and eat. There's too much of this outside in dictating to your body like it's magic, and that produces what I call the illusion of control. All right? The best thing to do is learn the wisdom of the body and communicate with it. And that's what I try to do with my coaching. So I don't like too much of this outside-in approaches. Sometimes they're an okay place to start, but if you keep on them, like these digital programming things want you to do, like Fit Day and the rest of these things, you're going to be a slave to numbers and not necessarily be any better off. And we did a whole podcast on that. A study out of the University of Pittsburgh showed that using things like Fit Day and stuff to track yourself actually leads to defeating your motivation and crushing your consistency. We did a whole podcast episode on that. I stay away from numbers. I'm all about the connection of self. All right, I'm all about any activity you do being a self-connecting one. And that's what fitness should be about. Remember I said earlier, doing things in the spirit of fitness also has to connect to the fitness of spirit, or you're missing the whole point. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. So, good. I'm glad people are liking the podcast and listening. For who just asked me about the podcast, Lily just posted, so you'll have to come back to my fan page. Lily just posted the link, https://smartersculptedphysique.com. So that should get you there, even if you type in smartersculptedphysique.com. Or if you want to go to scottabelfitness.com, I'm sure there's a link in there somewhere. Another thing that people, I keep getting questions every week. I don't know why people don't know this, but I may because I'm attracting so many new listeners and fans, etc. But people keep saying, do I coach people online? Well, yeah, that's how I've been earning my living for 3+ decades now since the internet existed. That's all I do is coach people online. I have clients in over 15 countries. So, yes, that is what I do. I'm not a personal trainer. So, you should be paying out there if you're looking for help. Pay for expertise, not proximity. Someone's not better because they're next door to you. So in this day and age where you can access the best, that's what you should do. And question. I work a lot with orthorexic clients, obsessed with clean foods and toxins. Afraid to eat inflammatory foods. Well, this is all just marketing nonsense, right? Like grains and fruit. Well, show them the study I just gave you. Well, or read the book whole, Rethinking the Science of Nutrition, where you'll see about grains and fruit and things like that are the healthiest way to go, and not just in health, but longevity, feeling good, things like that. So I've also done a podcast on that. So we talk a lot about that. How can nature's bounty be bad for you? That just doesn't make any sense. I better worry about eating this fruit. Really? You want to go to Atkins? People don't know that Atkins was built on a lie. Atkins was built on the marketing assumption that if you say things enough, consistently enough, people will start believing it, right? Because at one point, Atkins was saying pork rinds were healthier than fruit, any fruit. So you can go to the supermarket in the junk food aisle and buy pork rinds, and according to Atkins, that was better for you than eating fruit, which is absolute insanity, of course. But people don't know where these low-carb things come from. I do, because I study the history of all of this stuff. There's a book called Carbophobia, and you should all read. That one will knock you on your ass. So, all right, changing people's perceptions for movement. Good. Do I still do the cycle diet? Yeah, absolutely. I've been eating that way for 30 years. Today is actually my spike day, so looking forward to getting a lot of calories in me today, and looking forward to the enjoyable environment of that. And then I always look forward to getting right back at it tomorrow. So something I outlined earlier in the program, Chad. So go back and listen to the beginning where I read a bunch of things off that were important. So How often is it recommended to change a workout program? Boy, I wish you were in my program design masterclass, Steph. I mean, it depends on how well the program is constructed. But anyone who tells you, oh, in 3 weeks you need to change things up, not if you have a good program, not if your program is of sound design, because it takes 8 or 9 weeks just to reach the mastery phase if a program is well designed. So too many people are program hopping, what we call pinballing, and wondering why they're getting no results because they've read online somewhere that you need to do something magical every 3 weeks, as if on the 21st day somehow the body just changed because it's been day 21. I mean, again, this outside-in nonsense, right? Let me see here. Yeah, a lot of my clients who are on here talking about how long they've been on my cycle diet. And again, that's what I say. If a diet isn't sustainable, which most diets aren't, and a diet doesn't serve the body, which keto diet certainly does not, then you're wreaking havoc not just on your metabolism but on your health. So that's very important as well. So all good, folks. I think it's time to sign off because it's been a while and I don't want to bore the hell of you guys. I'll be back every week anyway. Lots of people on board and I appreciate that. So in the comment section I will put the link to that study once this session is completely live. So in about an hour, come back to the page and look for that link to the study and you can read all about it. And please re-listen to this so you understand the concepts that I'm talking about. Nutrition and diet has to connect you mentally and spiritually to yourself and why you do things, and that self-restraint and self-discipline and sacrifice is a lot different than self-deprivation and self-denial, okay? Let's put the response in responsibility, all right, and have that reaction to things. So hopefully you enjoyed the show. I'm glad people are throwing thumbs across there. And if you need any of the links for any of the books and stuff I talk about, I can try to put them in the notes. I don't always have time. But again, let's go to scottabelfitness.com. The other things you might want to check out, of course, is my Program Design Masterclass. And appreciate all the hearts and thumbs, folks. It means a lot. And the cycle.diet for more on this stuff. That's a course and a book, or you can just buy the book, whatever. I appreciate you guys being out there. If you weren't, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to be right here. So signing off, and I just got a congratulations from Facebook that this is the most commented on video yet. So that's why I said Facebook likes. Hearts and thumbs and things like that. That helps me get a wider reach. So that's very, very important to us as well. So we're trying to get more people on board with a truly healthy lifestyle. So again, the title of this, Let's Get Real About Getting Real, because a lot of people only think they're getting real, all right? And then once you get real, you need to be real. So remember, you are not in the pursuit of happiness. Your job is the creation of happiness. So appreciate all the thumbs and hearts, folks, and I will see you for Sunday Breakfast with the Coach next week.